Check one. Hey, good morning. Helps if I turn on the microphone. How's it going, everybody? We are live. It's Monday morning. It's Monday, October 9th. And we're going to talk about the spot market. We're going to talk about low boards, and we're going to talk about something that you may not have thought about. So, anyways, hope you got your coffee. I got the We Are Metal, We Are Family mug by Sanctuary. A lot of people dealing with some pretty crazy things. Got a text last night from somebody I just had dinner with that had something major happen to them. So you gotta, you can do everything right. You can get your contract freight, and you can get your finances in order, and you can have all the right ducks in the place, but something beyond your control can take it all out, just like that. So just be aware of that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. It seems like my pattern is I do like a little lecture section, and then we go over the low board stuff. I say hi to everybody in the chat. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat and also watching. Where's all the money at? We'll find out, Dennis. We'll find out. So hold on a second. Thank God for the mute mic, so you don't have to hear me cough and sniffle. So I think my allergies are in full swing. That means the leaves are changing color. And so, we're dealing with that. So let me fix a couple of things first, and then we'll get right on it. And then I'm going to share something with you guys that you may not be aware of. I was not really aware that this was an aggressive campaign. And it will affect you. It will affect you. So, all right, so let's fix that, and then let's go here, and let's do this to keep the trolls out. So save. There you go. So I hope all is well. Hope you had a good weekend. The weather's been perfect. I got a bunch of yard work done. The full trailers of brush that you guys see in my morning videos on the other channel, those are now empty. So that's been refreshingly good, although I am an old man and some bones and muscles ache. Thank you, Mother Nature. So, but I'm sure you guys don't care about that. Dispatch last week was actually fairly decent. We did okay for the drivers, thanks to some connections and some experience. So we got that done. Let's see what else. I have a big project I'm working on for Jeff for Like Trucking. So if you're a Like Trucking driver, you need to get a hold of me because we have a discussion about something that's coming up. Other than that, we're doing pretty good. I'm in a better mood, so there's that. And and Sterling, holy moly, Sterling sent me a big effects pedal for the guitar, so we're gonna mess around with that. I didn't have a chance to mess around with that this weekend. I was going to last night, even do a live feed with it, but dinner was late, and after all the chores were done, I just was too tired to deal with it. So we'll hopefully get that done this week. So pay attention to the small channel, Snorelord OG, if you want to check out some of my non-trucking stuff. If you like me as a person, not just as some guy that talks about trucking. So, all right. So, anyways, let's do some shout outs, and then we're going to show you guys something on the screen here that's probably may surprise you, may not. Dennis, good morning. Shannon, good morning. Jose, good morning. Speaking of Shannon, Sterling did a video showing her driving her truck going down the road, and they met up and hung out, and Sterling was wearing a Snorelord shirt. It was pretty cool. Very good video, man. Sterling's a good video editor. So if you're watching, Sterling, kudos to you. That was a great video. So make sure you check out Shannon's channel as well. Russell says, good morning. Today is the big day. What big day is that? You'll have to refresh my memory. Good morning, Randy. What's up? WCF Invader, what up? Happy crowd in here. Good deal, Agco. What's up? Where's the money at? Well, we're going to find it. We're going to find it. SST with your boxes. All the money is in data collection. Yeah, that's true, Sage. That's true. Ratman, what's up? Good morning. I see your lake photos. You're living the good life there, my friend. Yeah, you just came back from another world tour, so there's that too. So good to see you, my friend. Haven't talked to you in a while. I miss you coming into Springfield, and I found a great new Mexican restaurant I think you would approve of. Literally right next to the truck stops there, next to 88. By the way, I'm not sure who it was in the chat last Friday, but whoever you are, you came in clutch. Tractor Supply in Willow Springs does indeed unload an hour before the stores open. Thank you. Jose says, "Morning, Ratman. Looking for your videos. What's up with that?" His channel changed, and he's no longer driving a truck, so that's part of it. Trading my old truck for a new Pete. Going to be a lot of stuff to move out. Oh, moving day. I love moving day. Not. No, it's not so bad when you're going from truck to truck, but when you go from truck to personal vehicle back to truck, that's when it's a huge pain. And if I get another truck, I will definitely not load it like the last one. So it's going to be like a go bag, some laundry, and a little Hot Logic Mini to cook with. That's it. So nowhere near the amount of stuff I had before. I bounced from Dallas to Kentucky this weekend, got some dedicated work till January at $3.25 a mile on all miles. There you go, Mark. That's how it's done. That is how it's done. Very good. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you. I am feeling better, both mentally and physically. So truck is heading to shop maintenance. Good deal, Randy. Good deal. Make sure you log out so I don't get that phone call on a Tuesday afternoon wondering why you have no hours left. So, all right. So, let me bring this up on screen. I just downloaded this photo. So I was on Instagram, and there's an ad that came up, and I want to show this to you guys. And I say this because I have an intention with this. All right, this is not to number one. This is not the fear monger. This is not to make it look like there's no hope for the industry. I just want to see, in order to defeat your enemy, you have to know what you're up against. And I know a lot of owner operators right now that are struggling. They're barely surviving. You know, and Ratman Roan once told me some great advice. He's told me a lot of great advice, but one of the things he said that you should always be progressing forward. And sometimes that's just survival. You know, every day that you're in business is a good day. But you need to be able to look at what's coming down the line. And you have to look at the intentions of what's coming down the line. Okay. So here's an ad from my Instagram. I covered up the company because I don't really want to advertise them. And it says vetted truck drivers from Mexico are committed to working with your company for at least 3 years. And the ad goes on to say, tired of the endless cycle of hiring and losing drivers? Don't let high turnover rates hold your trucking business back any longer. Vetted foreign truck drivers are committed to working with your company for at least 3 years. Click the learn more about more button to find out about your business qualifies. So let me give you a couple observations of this, okay? Number one, this is not bashing foreigners. I'm not doing that. That's not what this is about, okay? So somebody, and this is how you make money in any industry, is you see a problem and you try to solve it. Someone sees a problem of turnover rate. Someone sees a problem of companies trying to keep their drivers, okay? But instead of focusing on maybe let's focus on the elements of why you lose these drivers versus let's just replace it with something else, with a different workforce. Now, let me give you a small story. So back in 1994, 95, somewhere around there, uh, I was working at Piccadilly Cafeteria. I was a pot and pan washer. And then later I would move to running inside the baker. I was a baker there for a small minute. But it was a good job. It was Monday through Friday. I had gotten the sweet spot of first shift, so I didn't have to work weekends, didn't have to work nights. It was kind of nice. And a friend and I were, we had formed a band called Ill Fader, and there were some lineup issues, and we're having trouble finding new bandmates, that wanted to play the kind of music we wanted to play. So we decided, hey, let's move to Phoenix. I have a sister in Phoenix. Phoenix has an awesome heavy metal scene. So let's do that. Now, there was a couple of friends that were trying to talk us out of it, but then we approached the managers at Piccadilly and said, hey, could we do a job transfer to Phoenix? And he said, well, we can, but here's the problem. A lot of the immigrants come in and take those jobs. So he said the Piccadilly in Phoenix, yeah, they'll hire you, but you're going to be in competition with a lot more people. So they have an endless supply of people, the immigrants that come in there, and they'll work cheaper than what you guys are making now. Still above minimum wage, obviously, for law reasons, but and it made it a challenge, and that to move to a major city without any real skills meant that we were going to be at entry level positions in any work that we did, which is taken up a lot by the immigrants. Now, a couple other circumstances happened, and we never moved down there. My friend ended up saying, "Well, screw you, Steve, if you're going to stay here in Springfield," and went out to California, where his family was at, San Jose. And I haven't heard from him since, and I stayed here, and I'm glad I stayed here. But the point is that there were plenty of people to take the job that people didn't want. Okay, and so that's one thought, right? So you can tell your company, hey, take this job and shove it and look for a high quality company. But if they can hire someone cheaper, and that's the kind of companies you're applying with, then that's what's going to happen. So one thought is to, what are you doing different that can't be replaceable? In other words, anybody can wash dishes. It would be management. It would be, those kind of things that I would needed to do if I wanted to survive in Phoenix, because they had this whole plethora of choices of people that would wash dishes. So you got to find a company that's not willing to do this, that's not willing to just replace you because they need meat in a seat. Those companies do exist. But in order to get to those companies, you got to have a good record. You got to have experience, you got to have skills, and you might need to specialize. Tank, flatbed, something like that. And so now here's the I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. So, how can this company guarantee that they can make their drivers stay here for 3 years, stay at a company for 3 years? Think about that. If the turnover rate, let's say my trucking company's named ABC Trucking Company, and I'm a horrible boss, right? So, in theory, for this ABC company, right? And so I have trouble with turnover. So I hire these guys. Hey, man, give me Give me 3 of your foreign drivers, and they better give me 3 years. But I treat them the same. What makes it to where they're going to stay versus my other drivers not staying? How can they promise this if the issues of why there are turnover rates is never solved? Now you can sign a contract all day long. Well, if these guys, leave, then we'll pay you X amount or this or something of that nature. But it's just a piece of paper. Who's got money for lawyers for that, right? So now, this is where the question come in. What's the point, right? So I want you to think about this. You have I have people I know that have changed jobs at least once a year, if not once every 6 months, whether they own their truck or not. They've switched companies over and over and over. And being on the hiring side, I know what it also takes. Like we don't just take anybody over here at Like Trucking. So finding qualified applicants is a challenge. But drivers showing loyalty can be a challenge. And you have the grass is greener syndrome that everybody seems to be under. I don't think this solves anything. But what it does, it's a gateway to get cheaper labor and excess labor. Because if you're a company that, trucking's a little bit different, but let's say you have a factory or maybe a restaurant, you want to hire more than you need and distribute as much as you can because you don't want 2 people to leave and your restaurant have to shut down because you don't have any employees. You always want the excess help. And if they have this, they're trying to tap into a resource that gives them numbers. Okay, so for every driver that we've had that we're able to commit 3 years to your company, we've got 3 that will take their place immediately if they leave. That's probably the promise that they will keep. But see, they're not solving the problem. All they're doing is rearranging it. All they're doing is capitalizing on it. How about a consultation firm that comes in and finds out why you have a high turnover rate? Is it the company or is it the driver? And these days I see both being a problem. Don't believe me? Look at Bonehead Truckers and the videos he puts out. So, but also, I bring this point up and I put this in my community posts. The other element to this is that the EPA regulations have made these trucks very expensive. It's made the repairs very expensive. You have companies working on autonomous trucks. Whether you see that as reality or not doesn't matter. It's the intent. This has intent behind it. This intent is to take the company weakness and fill it with the people that they want working. Their intent is to replace you. So then you got the speed limiter law that they're trying to get through. There's so many cards stacked against you. What are you doing to keep yourself to stand above the rest? And if you're just in survival mode right now, that's definitely a challenge. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of companies are trying to replace you either by cheaper labor or by very little labor. We saw it in the automotive industry. Someone sent me a report that only 22% of Americans can afford a brand new car. And the car companies have said that if we give in to the union's demands, cars are going to be even more expensive. So you have a product that very few Americans can afford. It's a perfect storm, because if no one can afford your product, that means no one's going to buy your product, which means that you're going to have to lay off, or it's going to kill your business, because you've priced your point to the to the point you've priced your product to the point that it's unmanageable. I would love to have a new F-150, but man, sticker shock, holy moly, right? But what did they do in the automotive industry? They came up with lean manufacturing. They were able to take 100 jobs and turn them into 50 jobs. And then, you had the robots that came in and did the menial tasks. And then with the threat of layoff at all times, it wasn't a secure job. Back in the day, if you could work for the local plant, you were set for 20 years. My dad worked there. My grandfather worked there, kind of a deal. Now that's not the case. So this is something that you have to think about. What are you building that's going to set you apart from this? What are you building that's going to set you apart from, the system that's in place? Because look, you can be the best budgeter, you could run a tight operation, you can have the best record, you can have great inspections, but all it takes is one check engine light or someone crossing the median and hitting your truck head on to take it all out. You have those odds, plus the intent to replace you, the intent to limit your capabilities to make it work in this business. So are you building something? Are you going to stand out from the rest? What are you doing that's more than just surviving? And if you don't have an answer for that, that's fine. Don't let that anxiety cripple you. But something to think about as you move forward in life. What are you building? What are you going for? What's your goals? What's your dreams? Because there are so many forces that are going to work against you. You have no idea the battles that lay ahead. So that's my lecture moment. All right, so let's go back to the comments. Where was I? Rock and Robin, good morning. Courage and optimism. Attitude is key. This is true. Morning. Hopefully everyone had a good week. That post was a great heads up. It was, Agco. Thank you. Let's try paying the driver zip code to zip code instead of the miles driven. Yeah, that happens a lot, Sharon. Is it Sharon or Sharon? When you ask about it, tell them Met company policy you were hurt. You never mentioned you never any mention of a rate per mile zip code was never talked about. It's not in the handbook. What can I do? Okay, so I'm trying to process this. So Are you asking if about companies that pay zip code to zip code, which is what most people do? It's what most rates are based off of. Yes. There are companies out there that will pay you hub miles, but those don't advertise on YouTube. Those don't advertise on Facebook. Those don't advertise on Indeed. Those jobs are hard to come by, but those jobs do exist. Now, a lot of brokers do pay by Google miles, but you have to be careful in places like Arkansas or North Carolina or Georgia, where there's a lot of, you know, 2-lane highways that you can take that will save miles, and that's how Google will get you there, but that's not doable in a truck. So if you're in a situation where you can't control those kind of things, or at least help mitigate some of that exposure, then it might be time to figure something else out if it's affecting you that much. Uh, it's fear mongering. What's the difference between CDL Mexico and CDL Canada or the USA? I don't know. I don't understand the question. Oh, I will. I don't want to leave without taking care or trying to make sure this doesn't happen to somebody else because their paperwork. Their paperwork is atrocious. Right. Look at the contracts. Look at the, you know, a lot of people. I know people that have signed contracts for $200,000 trucks that have no idea what they just signed. You see it on all the time on Facebook. They'll sign a big contract and they're like, "Hey, what's my recourse when this happens?" Well, what's your contract say? And look, I get it. The legalese is kind of hard to follow. You know, if you're ADHD, it's a bit of a challenge. So you hire somebody that's smarter than you to read that contract for you, and they'll be able to highlight it's worth the extra $100 or the OIDA membership. You know, if OIDA membership is worth anything, it's worth at least that. They put in the visa application process to lock them into the contract. Okay, that's one way to do it. But what if they're horrible drivers? What if they have a horrible attitude? What if they can't fire them now, right? I have impeccable record, no accidents, no tickets, no DUIs, 23 years of driving, no accidents ever. Excellent. Well, then you should be able to find a higher quality company. So just finding those companies is difficult. CDL Mexico comes with an endless supply of toothpicks. I do have one lined up, but I don't want to walk away and let this continue. This has caused me mental anguish, especially when I confronted them about it. That's a great servitude warning, but you have to figure out how to bring that to that message to the people that need to hear that message. And you've started with your comments, right? I don't think companies want to pay experienced, dependable drivers. Honestly, you know what? Because veteran truck drivers know what they're doing. A lot of them are uncoachable because they've been doing things a certain way. And then the really good ones that have figured things out, they're at companies that they're never going to leave. I know a lot on this living in Mexico for 16 years and working for Mexican Trucking TBM out of Baja, Mexico. Okay, Mark. That's cool. That's where my truck went, by the way. So look for a green Kenworth. If you saw someone's resume with 17 different companies over the past couple of years, I have seen that. That's the thing. We've turned down quite a few applicants. I said, dude, you've switched jobs too many times, man. You know, the cost of moving your truck if you're a truck owner is you got downtime, you got upfront fees a lot of times. And you lose maintenance accounts. I know people that once they move their truck, they lose their maintenance account that the company was holding for them. That's why Jeff doesn't hold a maintenance account, because he doesn't want that kind of exposure. When you come over to like trucking, you better have your own maintenance account. So you have all these deposits that aren't paid back, especially if you leave on bad terms. That there's all sorts of costs. And then if you're at a company that waits a week or 2 weeks before they pay your first check. It happened to me at Landstar. I worked 2 weeks before I got my first check, because my first check was negative because I didn't hit the right period. So it took me a month to go from purchase of the truck to hitting orientation. Then I didn't get paid a decent check for 2 weeks, which is why I had to stay out a month. So I went 6 weeks without a paycheck. So these people that move their trucks all the time, just get your own authority. Be the boss. And if you don't have the funds or resources or the knowledge to do that, then that's what you should be focusing on. I'm a company driver. I hope he doesn't kick me out of the room, but this is real and affects the whole trucking industry. I'm fixing to write a waiver for this. Cascade says wages is number one. Yes, I can write a waiver. I can get it done. That's just what we need, a waiver that goes straight to the Federal Registrar. Florida Mound says, Todd, elections have consequences. Yes. Recruiter, care to explain these gap of employment on your resume? Me, care to explain your high turnover? I came down here from Alaska to make money in orientation. Well, $200 for orientation, that was okay. $1,500 sign-on bonus, that was okay. I sit in the truck for almost 2 weeks because Turbo was calling. I only want mile, and I turned around. Morning says T-Bone. Turbo was whining. I had to sit in the truck. But anyway, I hope this isn't being posted online yet. This is a live feed, so this ain't no private conversation. Truck driver turnover rate from the driver's side. Our annual trends report of feedback from more than 45,000 drivers found the top 5 reasons truck drivers quit are total compensation, time away from home, lack of communication. And that's been a problem since I've been in the industry. Communication is key. It also shows that companies are looking for longevity in employees, not what people push, that you should change jobs every year. That's called leverage right there. Anyways, I'm filled with anxiety. Although I do have the job lined up, I'm calling that place. My gut is in an uproar. Great intro, Snorelord. Thank you, Adco. I've been driving for 23 years. This is the worst representation of we care. Jay Winger, what's up? It doesn't matter what, where, or whom the problem is. If you're looking to others to outsmart the problem, you're screwed. Yep. I agree with that. Well, I'm in their truck. I feel like a prisoner. I'm thousands of miles away from home, and I just want to get a rental car and put my crap in it and leave. But I wanted to file a complaint first. That way, even if I don't get the money they owe me, I have filed a complaint and made them investigate. Jay Winger, just a quick stop before we load in. Currently out with Bullet for My Valentine, thinking maybe your type of music, if I remember right. Not really. I don't think I listen to them. I mean, I don't own any of their music, but that's definitely closer than what you might possibly do. I have quite a few friends that do these tours, man. It's pretty cool. And one guy offered me free Amon Amar tickets, the shirt I'm wearing, but We it was in St. Louis, and we didn't have the time to get down there. So if you guys doing the Metallica tour, hit me up, please. I'd like to see. I haven't seen Metallica live yet. Gary Bates, what's up? DIY Semi, good morning. My DIY card is active. Just looking forward to breaking it in. There you go. The Coach and Stewie Show. H-1B work visas allow a possible path to citizenship over the long haul, so there is a big incentive for foreign nationals, especially from countries that generally have low quality of living. Yes. Don't you have to be told that sign a paper? Well, I have doctor's appointment this morning, trying to get my gut calmed down. A lot of anxiety here. We definitely need to address anxiety before anything else. We don't need anxious people behind the wheels of trucks. It's not just a thing that's done in the trucking industry. The hospitality industry actively recruits foreign nationals on an H-1B visa for the undesirable jobs. Yes, I realize that. You just didn't see it in trucking as much, and now you do. So that was kind of my point. Yeah, actually, here's my point. I have no problem people doing that. Okay, what I'm trying to do is raise awareness that to kill some egos that might be out there, because I guarantee you that there are people in their trucks right now that think they're irreplaceable. And no one is irreplaceable. For example, if I don't sit here with my ego saying that Jeff can't replace me, he would hurt if I ever left. That's ego talking. He could call me up during this live feed and tell me to find something else, and I'm prepared for that. Now, do I want that to happen? Absolutely not. But I'm prepared. You know why? Because of everything that's happened in my past. No matter how high up or how important I thought I was in all the different industries I've worked in, I was replaceable, and I was. Either through competition or layoffs or being shut down. I've worked for 2 restaurants that went out of business. I've worked for a lot of factories that either moved their stuff overseas or they just closed their doors. And then the skill trade I have, welder, the place where I was welding at, I left. I left at lunch hour. I was so upset that I left. That was the last thing I welded. And about 3 months later, did they solve the problems that made me walk out? No. Here's what they did. They laid off all their welders and told them that they could be rehired through PenMac, and they lost half their wage and they lost all their benefits. And what did the welders do? They went right back to it. How do I know this? Because I went and picked up a load there several years later, and they told me, the welders were there, like, "Oh, hey, Steve, what have you been doing?" "Well, I'm a driver now." "Oh, wow, that's awesome. Here's what happened to us after you left." Did they solve the problem? No. So it kind of justified my sudden walkout, that there was no future there, because I wouldn't have come back. Why? Because I had other plans in place or other paths I could have taken. I guess I didn't really have a plan. But you have to think of your future. You have to think of what does this look like 5 years from now? What you're doing right now, right this minute. What does that look like 5 years from now? That's why I've always been opposed to 5 and 6 year and 7 year notes on a truck, because life can change quite a bit in the span of 5 to 7 years. And unless you're building something, that truck payment's always going to be a a hindrance. It's always going to be that thorn in the side, regardless of what's going on in your life. You could have a tragedy, you could have a complete change of career, you could have something that's beyond your control that happens to you. Thank you. I'm working on it. I want to go talk to them. Clyde, good morning. Things are good. I saw Metallica just after low. It's a great show with Corrosion Conformity open. That's cool. DIY fuel card, 50 cents per gallon in St. James today. Good deal. People talk about how CB is dead. There's just on the wrong channel. Hop on the channel 6. Well, that's good. Wheel Burner, what's up? Good to see you, my friend. Everyone is replaceable, I think is what you meant to say. The Metallica tour, I was hauling Five Finger Death Punch for a few weeks. Was just lead dough. Aerosmith 25 trucks, but Steven injured, so tour postponed. Mr. Charles, I am not replaceable, but I may not fit your company. I'm one of a kind. And there you go. That's what you have to believe. Unless you have a magic genie lamp or crystal ball, I don't care how good of a forecaster you are, you cannot tell me where the trucking industry or market will be in 5 years, Steve. Sorry. I'm not trying to tell you where the market or trucking industry is going to be 5 years from now. I'm just saying that everybody should think about where they're at, where they're going to be at in 5 years. Where do they want to be at in 5 years? And dodge and weave and adjust. You know, remember when right before e-logs were implemented, everybody's like, "Oh, when e-logs kick in, man, I'm out of here." And there were people that did. They didn't have a plan. They end up coming back to trucking and hating it even more because now they got to deal with e-logs, something that they didn't prepare for. I knew people that didn't switch to e-logs till midnight on the deadline. And so they had no idea how to adjust because they hadn't been planning on it. They hadn't worked on it. All they did was fight in court or fight in these groups to keep it from happening, which was beyond their control. So yeah, I look, people call me up all the time and say, "Hey, what do you see happening? You know, where do you think the market's going? You know, what's your market prediction this quarter?" I'm like, I don't know, man. I see some trends that are good and I see some trends that are bad. I kind of look at it more of a bigger picture than what the next quarter is going to be. You have to think of longevity survival. And even then, you have to put the what ifs. Like Will Burner's going through something right now that was definitely unplanned. Same thing with a couple of other people in this chat I won't mention. You can't account for everything. But you know, I first month I was at Like Trucking, I busted my leg, couldn't run for a full month. Missed out on mats, missed out on the fun that year. But we had savings in place. So we had no issues. And the fact that my truck payment wasn't $4,000 a month helped tremendously. Greg Zimmer, good morning. Scott Rolla, good morning from Barstow. Been a minute since I've been out there. SST says it's going to suck. I have a crystal ball. I need to borrow it. Sign that 5 or 7 year note, become a slave to the lender. There you go. I love the ELD. I get rest. Yeah, I adjusted the ELD. At first, it was difficult. It took me about a month. Then after that, I just figured it out because I knew that was the future. I knew that was going to happen. Even though my dad had been in the industry for many years and and I was trained very well on how to use paper logs, and I mean use paper logs. Um, Now I had a little bit of leverage to the dispatcher that wanted me to run a little bit more than I should have been. So we are a dime a dozen. I don't believe that. You got to put yourself. Look, here's the thing. Being on the broker side, what I've learned is that if you can speak complete sentences and put out an accurate and well detailed email, that stands out from a lot of the competition. Communication. If communication's rare, be the best communicator that you can, and that will pay off. Let's say you sign on with a company, or you're a company driver for a dedicated fleet that has some very difficult places to back into, right? So and you have the ability and the skill set to back into these places. So now you have leverage over the guys that just came out of CDL school. Now you have leverage over the guys that are used to just, two turns off the interstate, big warehouses. That alone can bring up your revenue. That alone can bring you up to a better quality company. You're in higher demand, and if as long as the company is, honest, says, hey, this dedicated account pays really well for a reason, and here's why. And if you can stand out from the rest in that kind of a scenario, you'll be fine. As long as that company is doing the things in place to make sure that they can keep that dedicated account. See, that's how this works. I don't care if you're owner op or company driver. That's how this works. Do the things that no one else wants to do. Do the things that no one can't do or can do, I'm sorry. Or at least do it, but if you're doing everything like everybody else, do it better than everybody else. Be a great communicator. You know, and so, like, when people ask to use my dispatch services, I want to learn about them. I interview them, and they should be interviewing me. I want to know, what can I do for you, and how do you see that happening? And then they should be asking me, well, how are you going to help me? What can you do for me? Where these other dispatch services offer, oh, I can increase your revenue to this amount. Well, how? Tell me how. Well, we just have great connections. Okay. How did you establish those connections? You know, when you sign on with a company, whether company or owner op, read the paperwork and interview them. Interview them as much as, if not more than them interviewing you. Thank you for being a marvelous host. You're welcome. Cascade communication is one way to set yourself apart from the masses. Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to usually only drive 8-hour shifts, saved me from having too many resets. OTR, ELDs didn't affect me too much. There you go. Immigrants currently make up 19% of the 1.2 million long haul truck drivers working in the U.S., according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's getting ready to increase, I believe. Um, yeah, that's what I believe too. Anyways, all right, let's take a look at load availability, shall we? And let's see. Let's go. Let's close that. Whoops. Load availability. Session paused. Okay, so let's take a look at van first. See if we see any major changes. Minnesota and Iowa are cooling off a little bit, so keep that in mind. This time of year, Minnesota, Iowa, And Kansas should be green. Oklahoma is usually yellow, and these should be, well, they're all yellow, but still. Um, Now Oregon's yellow instead of red, so that's interesting. And of course, California, Texas, Florida, all those states. New Jersey, of course, is hopping pretty good versus the other Northeast states. So if you want to run the Northeast, let's say you live in this area, your best bet is your highest paying stuff is going from Pennsylvania, New York, or New Jersey, going up to Maine, um, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and then you're either going to take a hit coming down, or you're going to deadhead back and then go back and forth that way. If you live in this area, northern Georgia to southern Florida, you're either going to take a hit coming out, or you're going to take that dollar mile freight to get back up to Georgia and then rinse repeat. We've got a couple of drivers that do that, and they do very well. So let's take a look at Missouri here. Let's see what the highest paying outbound stuff is going. Let's see, and I imagine most of it's going west or northeast. So let's do highest rate. Maryland. Oh, $20 an hour to go to Maryland. 20 grand. Let's see what this is about. What if I accidentally not took it out of man? That's probably it's probably a misprint. They probably meant to say 2018 versus $20,000. $20,000, I will get a truck and I will run that load myself because that's just charcoal. I know what that is. Let's see. $1.81 to go to California. Florida, California. So you're high. Okay, Utah, Pennsylvania, 2,500, 212 a mile. Joplin, Pennsylvania, 209 a mile, 2,400. So, as I said, a lot of it's going northeast, southeast, or northwest. So just, inbound, the highest paying thing going into Missouri is $10 a mile going from Wisconsin to Missouri. I believe that's also a misprint. Yeah. So October 9th. So that might be a shenanigan to try to get the thing on the top of the feeds there. So that's a tactic that brokers use at times. California to Trenton, Missouri, $1.90 a mile, 3,400. It's actually not bad coming out of Cali. Going to Republic, Golden, Missouri, Mojave to Kansas City. So a lot of California freight coming back to Missouri. So you can use that tool. It's in the density map. Let's do Ohio. Actually, take a bet. Let's do Florida. We have quite a few trucks hanging out in Florida. Now, as you can see, Orlando to Rincon, Georgia, 97 cents a mile. So let's sort by age. Let's do by highest rate. What's the highest paying load coming out of Florida right now? Jacksonville to Carlsbad, $3,800. 37 to go to Wyoming. That's a little low, but that's straight out of Miami. So 209 Cantonment, Florida, Cantonment, Florida to Auburn, Maine. I'm sure Randy's laughing at me now. Picks up Friday at midnight, delivers at, so it's probably not accurate on the times. They're right about the average, but it's going to Maine, so that's going to be your best paying load. Again, like I said before, your best paying load are going to go to the Northeast. Here's one going to Vegas for 98 cents a mile out of Miami. So we're not going to get into what you should do in that situation. I'm just reporting the facts here. Jacksonville to Rochelle, Illinois. This actually isn't bad to go to Illinois. $1.88 a mile. Picks up Wednesday. Then it says deliveries on the 10th, so that's probably not accurate. Cargo Chief's not available on that lane. for some reason, but I'm gonna imagine it's probably got several stops. Maybe that's why. Oh, I bet you I know what this is. I bet you I know what this is. So it's probably multiple stops. There's a customer there in Jacksonville that does that. Okay, so um, Minnesota $1.35, Minnesota $1.16. So let's look at the highest rate per mile coming out of Florida. It's going to be all your short stuff, except for the Florida to Maine. That's still the best paying load coming out of here. Florida to New Jersey. Man, I'm such an idiot. My wife came out here and corrected me. Oh man, maybe I should just end this live feed and die of embarrassment. So there you go. Um, if you're listening and not even watching, so there's that. If you're driving, that's what should be happening anyways. But here's another $1.86 to Texas from Tampa. So, but anyways, there's your map. I apologize for my lack of smartness, lack of intelligence. So, but there's your map for the van. So I thought I hit share screen and I guess I didn't. So learning to laugh, the absurdity of trucking, says CB, is a superpower. Practice and master it, and all the issues, quote unquote, in trucking become cute little situations that won't affect you much. That's a stoic, very stoic way to look at that, CB. The retired trucker, Jesse Sears, map isn't showing on screen. Yep, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I apologize. Among the findings in 2021, immigrants, legal and illegal, were 29% of all construction workers, and that is much lower than what I have experienced and more than enough to lower wages. Yep. Show the screen. Sage says don't go to Maine, and Liberty is laughing at me. Road Less Travel. Snorelord, what's your email? I got a few questions about like trucking. I'm looking around for a new spot to sign on with. Um, Here, let me put in the. It's in the description of these live feeds at the very bottom, but there's the email if you want. So, all right, let's take a look at reefer freight. This is the peak reefer season right now. A lot of processed and fresh food shipping right now. Utah's lit up. California. Let's take a look at Utah. What's coming in and out of Utah? So outbound Utah, 13 a mile to go to Ogden, Utah. From Ogden to Cheyenne. We're on the highest rate per mile, 405. So a lot of shorties to Wyoming, Arizona. Here we go. Salt Lake to New Hampshire, 287 a mile, $7,200. Let's take a look at this load. See what's going on with this one. Yep, multiple stops. Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York. So you're going to want to do the miles on that. You're going to want to look at your tolls. Of course, the toll calculator will probably be inaccurate on that if it's not mapping. So you want to map that yourself. Um, so, but again, multiple stops. That's something else a lot of people don't want to do. So that's how you make your money. There are people only getting 1,600 out of there, and you're going to get 7,200. 5,800 to go from Ogden to Florida. Doesn't say anything about multiple stops. Oh wait, one pick, three drops. McClenny, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. So probably get them for $6,000 on that. I would rather do that for 6 than the other one for 72 because you're not dealing with any tolls in that direction. Plus, you'll get that off a little bit quicker. Montana, a lot of stuff going to Missoula. So, all right. So there's your states for the reefer. A little bit more green. Minnesota, Iowa are green versus Van. It's not. Utah is green. Let's take a look at flatbed and step deck. We'll throw that in there. Idaho's lit up. And so when you look at these green states, you might be if you're long haul, you can do Pennsylvania to Washington and back. Let's take a look at Idaho. Let's see what's coming out of Idaho. Utah, we're on highest rate per mile, 355 to go. Let's see, DNL has it for picking up today. Internet's being a little bit slow. Going to Montana. Stone on pallet, so it's going to be heavy. A lot of mountains in that, so you have to look at your profit margins on that. South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado. So let's do the highest rate. See where the long haul stuff's going. Wisconsin for $1.92 a mile, 3,200. Here we go, 204 a mile to go to Idaho to Iowa. $1.52 to go to Searcy. So definitely a big difference in the long haul. So let's look at inbound. Let's see what the highest paying load is coming into Idaho. Texas to Lewiston. That's interesting. Doesn't pick up till tomorrow at noon. 5,300 step deck, legal load, no tarp. Ask for Mac, needs straps. Well, what flatbedder doesn't have straps? So that's interesting. So, anyways, 48065. If you want to check it out, don't take my word for it. There's the code. There's a website. Saves you 30 days for free, and then $35 a month for all the tools you see except for Cargo Chief. That is a little extra. And then let's get back to comments, and we're going to end this feed here pretty soon. I got work to do. I got a driver that's been calling. So just finished my IFTA for third quarter. 38,000 miles, 6.8. Lots of mountains and heavy loads. Yep. Yeah, hit me up today. Scott taking off 15 through the 28th. Got my 40th class anniversary to attend. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know if my class reunion's not. We did the 25-year one. I was missed out on that. The people holding that stuff don't know what they're doing. I've lived in the same place for 25 years, and I'm easily found. So, but yet I did not get an invitation. I was not the popular kid in school. So, with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. Just think about things that I've told you. There is no crystal ball, as Will Burner has pointed out, but you gotta show. You gotta figure out something. You gotta figure out what this might look like in 5 years for yourself, and the different opportunities and avenues that will present themselves to you. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Peace.